How are we doing, Bulls Nation? It has been a while since we've done a hot takes video. I know I used to feature these every Wednesday, but ever since having a baby, I've kind of been ramping down the uploads, more specifically the hot takes videos, and really only focusing on the latest breaking news of the offseason. But because we had a lot of recent transactions of the offseason between drafting Dalen Terry and then, of course, free agency signings, I thought it would be good to see where your guys' heads are at and giving your hot takes of the offseason thus far. So in today's video, we'll be going over some of the takes I pulled out of the community tab from the other day, and we'll just be going right into it. So what's going on, everyone? You're listening to Bulls Central here. Hope you're all doing well. Our first take comes to us from Shadonk. Zach will outperform Demar and Lonzo will come out firing. Well, if we're going to be honest, we should hope that Zach will outperform Demar this season. I mean, even last season, Demar should not have outperformed Zach LaVine and taken the spot as the team's best player based on DeRozan's age and really being a signing to complement Zach LaVine. That being said, I don't think anyone expected DeRozan to have the season that he did and having one of the best years of his career at the age of 32. And obviously, Zach LaVine also got injured towards the end of the season, so you also have to bear that in mind. And what I liked about last season was that Zach was actually fine with this and taking a bit of a backseat after really being the focal point of the franchise for so long. A lot of players would have had a hard time checking their egos and not clashing or getting frustrated with the situation, especially when Zach was in a contract year. But at the end of the day, they both complement each other very well, at least before Zach got injured anyway, and Zach still got his max contract, so everything worked out in the end. But because Zach is now playing on a max contract, he's in the peak of his prime, and DeMar DeRozan is going to be 33, this is the season where you would expect Zach LaVine to really show he's the best player on this team and outperform DeMar DeRozan. As for Lonzo Ball, I mean, I just hope the guy is fully healthy because we're certainly going to need him, as we saw how much we missed him after he went down with an injury in January as the team really fell off from there. So if Lonzo is fully healthy and ready to go, I sure as hell hope so that he's going to be coming out firing and shows that all of our concerns about his long-term health are unfounded and that he's going to be okay. Next up, we've got the NBA Unleashed. Clint Capela could be going to the Bulls in trade, including Vucevic and Coby White, if needed, because of his jersey accidentally being in the Bulls official team store. So I'm not familiar with Capela's jersey being in the Bulls official team store. I hadn't heard of that one actually, but that aside, I mean, this would be a terrible trade. Vucevic and Coby for Clint Capela. I actually like Capela too. Solid defender, great rim protector, elite level rebounder, but he also had a bit of a down season for the Hawks last year. Wasn't as efficient as we're used to seeing with his rebounding and shot blocking, and his scoring dipped as well. He averaged 11 and 12. I mean, as much as Vuce struggled last season, he's still a better overall player than Clint Capela. So even a straight trade of Vucevic for Capela would be a loss for the Bulls, in my view anyway, but also including Coby White? Nah, you can get way more value if you're going to package Vucevic and Coby White together than just someone like Clint Capela. Capela's contract also isn't the best either, given both Vuce and Coby are on expiring deals, while Capela is going to be making over $20 million for the next 3 seasons. For a guy who showed some signs of declining this past season, yeah, no thanks. Next, we've got R.L. Williams. P. Will be traded by or at the deadline. Yeah, I can't see this happening. I mean, it was rumored that the main thing holding up the Bulls trading for Rudy Gobert was that the Bulls were unwilling to include Patrick Williams in a package. Now, whether that was true or not, we'll probably never know, and based on the haul that the Jazz got for Gobert, I think it's unlikely the Bulls were ever really truly in the running for him. But if this was in fact the case, and also just based on the fact that Williams has been in trade rumors in the past and the Bulls have been unwilling to move him, leads me to believe that the front office is fully committed to Patrick Williams being a future star in this league with massive potential. Whether that's to a fall or not, sure is up for debate, but I really think AK views P. Will as his prized possession, his first draft pick as the executive of the team, and I really can't see him moving him in a trade, unless of course he's able to get some insane return for Patrick. I mean, every player is a price that you can't pass up on in a trade, but I also don't think Patrick's trade value is probably as high as some Bulls fans might think. Next, and related to that, we've got TJ. Patrick Williams' potential is massively overrated by Bulls fans. He doesn't have any standout skills. He's too slow for the small forward position and not strong enough to be a power forward in the league. He is going to be a fringe starter for the rest of his career. AK and his crew made a huge mistake by taking him at number 4, and we should trade him while his value is high. Well, let me start with the last point, which I just mentioned in the previous take. I don't think Patrick's trade value is actually as high as most people probably think, especially when he was injured most of last season, and also because he still has a lot to work on in terms of his game. Like, yes, the potential is there, the physique is there, the NBA readiness is there, but can he manifest that potential that so many people see in him? I think he can. I'm just not sure if other teams are willing to take that risk and trade a lot for him. As for your other points, I don't think he's too slow to be a small forward, although yes, his speed is somewhat of an issue. I don't think he's not strong enough to be a power forward. He's actually very strong, especially for his age, and will only get stronger. And then as far as the Bulls taking Patrick at number 4 being a huge mistake by the front office, I mean, yes, it might have been a bit of a stretch to take him that high in the draft, but if you look at the rest of the draft class and guys who were selected after Patrick, guys like Isaac Okoro, Onyeka Okongwu, Killian Hayes, Obi Toppin, Jalen Smith, I mean, outside of maybe Tyrese Halliburton or Sadiq Bey or even Tyrese Maxey, who all went later in the draft and were not even close to being projected to top 4, I don't really think you can consider this pick to be a mistake. It would have been different if they had, say, the number 3 pick and took Patrick over LaMelo Ball. But the two best players from the draft in LaMelo and Anthony Edwards were already off the board by the time the Bulls were on the clock, so I don't think this was a mistake by the front office at all. Next, we've got Eco Bean. There will be trade Zach rumblings by the trade deadline in February, as Ayo's three-point shot and well-rounded play during his contract year will have fans wanting to trade Zach for a top-tier level power forward. This wouldn't surprise me all that much, and I only say that because some Bulls fans just have stupidly high expectations, and if Zach even falters a little, you're going to hear people shouting for Zach to be traded. That also just kind of comes with the nature of playing on a max contract. You're going to be scrutinized more. There are going to be higher expectations that you have to live up to for your max deal. And if the Bulls do struggle a bit, yeah, people are going to put it more on Zach because of his salary, whether that's fair or not. It's just the reality of the situation. It comes with the territory. As for the Ayo part of the take, can't really say I see that. I mean, I do see Ayo getting even better than he did last year, but not to the point where fans are going to start saying, well, clearly Ayo is better than Zach. We should just start building around him. Let's go out and get a top-tier power forward. Like, no, and I'm a huge Ayo fan, but he's probably not even going to be seeing the same amount of minutes he saw in his rookie season, since the hope anyways that the Bulls will be healthy, more specifically Lonzo Ball. Next up, we've got Joshua C. Bulls trade Vucevic, Patrick Williams, Coby, Ayo, and 2 first-round picks for Kevin Durant. See, this is why I don't think it's worth going after KD, because this is probably the amount you're gonna have to give up for him if you want him, if not more, because this really doesn't include a guy like DeMar DeRozan, who the Nets will want in return to at least get one All-Star. I actually made a video on this when it was announced that Kevin Durant had requested a trade, and you had all these Bulls fans losing their mind, wanting to ship half of the team out for him. Like, I get it. He's a superstar. He's one of the greatest players of all time, one of the top 5 greatest scorers of all time. He's as elite as they come. He would certainly make the Bulls a title contender, well, depending on who you would be able to keep as a result. But is a 34-year-old Kevin Durant, who has been pretty injury prone the last 3 or so years of his career, really worth mortgaging your whole future on? Not only are you sending Patrick and Ayo, but also 2 first-round picks when you ship 3 first-round picks to get Vucevic and DeMar. I don't know, it's just too much in my view. It would be a little bit different if Kevin Durant was, say, 30 years old. Next, we've got Hunter Hamrick. Vucevic will be an all-star. Nah, I can't see it. Like, I think Vucevic's all-star days are behind him, at least with the Bulls anyway. I do think he'll have a better season than last year, especially as it pertains to his efficiency. But there are just too many guys on this Bulls roster to take the attention away from Vooch, and taking scoring opportunities away from him that draws in all-star votes. He's not going to be averaging more than 20 points per game. I even said that last offseason when we signed DeMar and Lonzo. He's not going to be putting up the 25 and 12 numbers that we saw him do in Orlando. Not when he's the third option behind 2 elite level scorers in Zach LaVine and DeMar DeRozan. So even if Vucevic has a bounce back year, which I actually do think he will, despite getting a little up there in age, I don't think it's going to be enough for him to get an all-star nod just based on the players he has around him, who will get more recognition than he will. This next one is from Callow. AK did not go after a power forward for the bench because he sees something in Marco that nobody else does. There are reports of him getting muscle and working on his body. This year is the year we see him get minutes off of the bench. So yeah, I've seen the reports that Marco has put on weight. I believe he's up to 240 now. When he started in the league, he was 215 pounds, which is a pretty drastic jump in just a matter of a year. And if you've seen him in practice in Summer League, he's clearly much bulkier. But all that being said, I don't really have a ton of high hopes for Simonovic. Not saying he won't get some minutes this season, and hopefully beyond just garbage time minutes anyway. But look, the Bulls need a backup power forward. I think that's really what's been the most surprising thing to me in terms of the moves that have been made so far this offseason, is not addressing that backup 4 spot. It's not like this is a new issue. The Bulls literally have been without a solid backup 4 since last season. And you would have thought, after Patrick getting injured and missing most of the year, like case in point, probably good to have a backup power forward so you don't have to start Javonte Green or Alex Caruso at the 4 in case Patrick gets injured. But they didn't address it at the trade deadline. They didn't address it at the draft. And so far, anyway, they haven't addressed it in free agency or through any offseason trades. I like to think there is still going to be a trade in the works that gives them a little bit more front court depth. I just can't see the Bulls just rolling with Marco and thinking he's going to fit in that role. I just don't. I do hope I'm proven wrong, and AK has seen something in Marco that maybe we're just not seeing and realizes some sort of potential in the coming season. Anyway, guys, I'm going to end it there for this edition of your Bulls Hot Takes. Be sure to leave any hot takes you have in the comments to be included in future videos, and as always, be sure to subscribe if you're a Bulls fan, as I do post daily Bulls content. Thanks again for tuning in, guys, and I'll catch you in the next one.